listening to Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. Small town feel with big time ideas. After all, you are entitled to Brad's opinion. Here's your host, Brad Allard.
All right. I'm a little loud there, Josh. There you go. Okay, good. Anyway, we got Adam Russell here today.
Good morning.
What's your seat number? I forget these
6.
things. 6. And we don't have competition for seat 6
Not this year.
which is a blessing, I'm sure.
Right.
No, it really is. I mean, I take it as not a sign of apathy, but one of, well, things are going okay. Why rock the boat? Because I was thinking, I had no intention ever to run, but what would I run on, actually? I mean, what would I do differently? And I can't really think of much. And so, and I'm not trying to be, shine you up and make you feel better and all that, but I really, one of the advantages I've had in this show is I get to get privy to some of the thoughts of the decision makers. And I can, at least in the last 3 years or so, it seems like every decision's been made with a great deal of care and thoughtfulness. And even if some people disagree or they wish you took A instead of B or whatever else, well, that's decision making, isn't it?
Right.
Have you made any decisions you kind of, I wish I'd have done that one again.
Of course.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, you do what you can with what you got.
That's right.
Well, we're going to talk about some of the budgetary issues. And also, I've been talking to Victoria and the mayor the last couple of weeks, and they have a great deal of concern what's going on down in Austin. Mm-hmm. And we can talk about that, about how they're going to make it more difficult to do your job.
Right. And,
I don't think many people really know this. I think they just go about their business, and all of a sudden it hits them with something, and they go, what was this all about? Well, it's been coming a mile away if you've been paying attention. Mm-hmm. But before we do that, let's get the sponsors because they make this all possible. Our place, I was there this morning with the men from the Sunday school, and we talked mostly sports because it's just too depressing. We talked about world events, And the thing is, I was talking to Victoria about this last week, world events affect us.
Right.
We think it's something we read about in the news or we see at the gas station, but it's affecting city governance. And so we need to talk about, is this, if it's a long-term situation, what it could mean for us here in Burleson. But anyway, that's another story. Our place, great breakfast as always, great service. Your coffee cup's never empty. They come by all the time, and so it's all good. And then, of course, tonight and the rest of the week, we can go to Gina's. You've been to Gina's all yet. Right. Now, you have a couple of young boys, right? Mm-hmm. They play those old video games by any chance? Those old retro games?
Yes.
I walk in there and saw that, like, Pac-Man. I haven't seen that since I was in college, which was a while back. Or, Space Invaders and all this other stuff. It's good to see the classics are still around. Right. Tonight is chess night.
Okay.
You play chess?
I've played it.
You played it.
Not that good.
Well, you go there tonight, and there'll be about a dozen games going on, and mostly young people. And it's pretty interesting. And then tomorrow night, they'll have bingo, and Wednesday night, they'll have karaoke, and then Sunday night, they have live music. So they got it going on over there. Also, John Williams, Old Pro Roofing, 817-734-2756. These are local folks, right? Old Pro Roofing is about a block from City Hall. And so you're dealing with people that live here, work here, whatever. John will go about anywhere to get your roof up. He goes all over DFW, but this is a Burleson-based company. And the good thing about John and Old Pro is that if you have problems with your roof, he'll tell you. If your roof is fine, he'll tell you. And so you're not going to get the upsell and, oh, my Lord, you're so glad I came routine. No, if your roof is fine, they'll tell you. They're not going to, try to gin up the bill, so to speak. So 817-734-2756. Also, Jeff Kelly with the Wethington Agency, another local outfit. They're also about 2 blocks from City Hall. 817-781-0546. I have him on about once a quarter to talk real estate and what the rates are doing. And I'm sure y'all keep an eye on that as well. Now, I don't know if y'all get a heads up about real estate, but y'all probably do at least keep an eye. Now, you were on the Planning and Zoning Commission, right?
Correct.
Yeah, that's pretty important information, I would imagine. So, and speaking of which, there's a couple of spots I was going to ask you, locations. I was going to ask if you know of any changes of their status and anything coming or anything like that. But back to Jeff, 817-781-0546, or Jeff at jeffkellyrealty.com. He's a good guy, really is. And you're going to spend a lot of time with a real estate agent, so you better like him. Also, this guy, or got to know him, Rod Lewis over at the Burleson News Express. He's still doing his print paper. You have a meeting tonight, don't you?
Yes, that's correct.
And then you'll see him, and he'll be there. There's about 24, 25 locations where you can pick up this copy of his newspaper. I know Daydream Coffee has it. I know most of the ladies' hair salons have it. Some of the public buildings have them. I know a couple of the mechanics, auto repair places have them. So, while you're sitting waiting on it, you can look through the newspaper. And we missed the Burleson Star. You probably weren't around when the Burleson Star was.
Oh, yes.
Well, you were. Mm-hmm. Okay. How long have you lived in Burleson?
17 years this year.
Oh, I got the impression. I guess you're right. I got you mixed up. I thought you'd moved here about like 2018. No, but you've been here a little while. So, we always enjoyed the old Burleson Star. The teachers get that. On the Thursday edition, they have the arrest reports. And they go, yeah. It's like, arrest report, bingo. I called that one, well, that sounds kind of mean when you say it like that, but, teachers can, get around the copy machine or something. There's a lot of gossip flying. Anyway, Burleson News Express. You pick one copy up at various locations. It'll be good. And also, if you have some material, you have some content, contact Rod, and he'll be glad to talk about it. Also, this is my newest sponsor, True Climate. Will Cobb and his sister Emily Cobb run this, 682-244-2019. I'll say it again, 682-244-2019. They'll be coming out to my house Friday because, it's supposed to get hot.
Right.
It's already here, right? And you want to make sure your air conditioner's in shape. And they're like, John, they're not going to give you this routine. They have this plan for like $99 a year. You could have them come by once a year to come check your air conditioner out, and at a much reduced cost. Or if they have to replace it eventually, it'll be like 20% discount, which is going to be a bunch because air conditioners aren't cheap. So give them a holler. Like I said, I'm going to be using them this week because I don't want to find out in April my air conditioner needed work and it's not working. Now, my wife and I change the filters every 3 months, and Emily tells me that should be pretty good. And they're not going to come out and tell me, oh, my Lord, we're just in time to save you from disaster. They'll tell you, oh, you're good to go. Or if you need a minor tweak, whatever. Okay, thank y'all. We'll do the nonprofits at the end. We got about 3 or 4 of those. April is a very busy month. All right. The biggest concern that Victoria had and the mayor had was what's going on in Austin, as much as anything going on here. Now, you keep up with that. Can you explain what's going on and how that will impact Burleson taxpayers and budget makers like yourself?
So it's kind of a common theme for the last few sessions, but basically the representatives decide that they think the state can do things better than we can here locally, and so they take away what we call it local control, and they do it by various means. There's several times where I ask a question like, well, can't we do this? Well, no, state law tells you can't. So certain things, there's some, there's a lot of hot button things, with data centers and certain things. So we're trying to head that off, but there's only so much you can do.
Well, I haven't heard of any data centers coming here, but I know like in Abilene.
Right.
They're having a big one. And then over in Corsicana, there was going to be, and it's still controversial. I don't know if it's still on plan, to have one of those digital mining centers, for crypto coins and all that crap, which is what it is, Josh. Crypto coin. You don't into crypto, are you?
No,
good for you.
Don't get me started.
All right. Anyway, the point is that my parents, my father passed, but my mom's still there. They couldn't do anything about it because it's out in the county. And that could happen to us too.
Correct.
But it is also going to be a real, shall we say, a real problem for Burleson area.
And I'm not saying we're not getting one. We're just trying to be ahead of it because I see the news in Granbury and out near Glen Rose. So
yes.
We're just trying to stay ahead of all that.
Well, it'd be a tremendous burden.
Correct.
And
on the resources,
right?
Power and water.
But another problem that they're telling me that y'all are having as well is that they're making it very difficult for y'all to raise revenue.
Correct.
All right, and that's a real problem. And I don't mean like arbitrarily just raising taxes because of, something silly, but the fact is that y'all have to raise revenue.
Right.
And what I understand, the governor is going to put a 5-year moratorium on the valuations of homes. Well, the mayor says that would devastate small towns, and it wouldn't do us any good either. We'd be running either a service deficit because you can't run a budget deficit.
Correct.
All right. That pothole we've been wanting to get filled may not get filled.
Right.
The cops you need to be hiring won't be hired. I just don't understand what is the motivation behind this, other than just we want the power to do these kind of things.
Right.
And
I don't know, and that's where it's headed. It's a service degradation, is what it'll start with the roads, because that's usually the easiest to take money from, because you need police and fire, and but eventually it goes down to the other departments.
Now, I know the school system, if they want to raise tax rates, there's a referendum election. Is that the same for cities?
We can, if we go over what's called the voter approved rate. Right now, it's 3.5%, but if we want to go higher, we can go out to the voters.
I think the schools are like 1.5%. I mean, I remember the last time we had one of these TREs, as they call them, was 2012, and it failed by 8 votes. And was it a disaster? Not really, but there were some things that they had to postpone until, because the economy wasn't doing very good at that time.
Right.
Is there any contemplation of raising the tax rates as best you can?
I mean, we haven't talked about it yet this year. Budget process. I think the directors needed to get they're getting close to their deadlines to get it into the city management so they can start working on them.
Yeah. Well, Alex Phillips says good morning, and it's very helpful. He still doesn't tell me what's going on with these new spots. I guess he didn't tell you all either, does he, until it's a done deal? See, a lot of people think that, y'all got all this inside information, and basically you may find out about 10 minutes before we do, right? Roughly.
Well, we do have executive sessions, so we find out. But yeah, it's been worked on for several months by the time we find out about it. So it gets to the point where he says, do we keep going or no? And so
so if a new business comes in and y'all get in session and say, okay, 10% off the top. No, you don't do anything like that. It isn't like the mafia. But I'm just saying that people just assume you know what's going on all the time. Because I asked Victoria, hey, what's going on in that spot over there? I don't know.
Right.
And does Alex know? He'll never tell. But unless it's been publicly announced, y'all maybe find out before a meeting, and then it's publicly announced. But the idea y'all know about this months ahead of time is not true. And I guess I should say that because they all think that y'all got all sorts of inside information and you can use that and whatever, but that's not how it works. And but back to the point is that if this passes the next session and you have a 5-year moratorium on evaluations, I see 2 disastrous things happen. One is you're going to see cities, not just ours, but smaller cities who have less sales tax revenue. I don't know how they're going to make it.
Right.
I mean, I could seriously see some of them just basically going belly up, so to speak, financially. Second of all, after 5 years, those evaluations didn't stop, even if they were frozen by the state that value their real estate in real terms and the real market has continued to rise. And so when that 5-year period for that piece of property is over, won't all that accumulated value come on just once?
Right.
And, so if you've been saving a few dollars over the last 5 years, you're going to be paying it back and then some in that 6th year.
Right. The valuations will go up significantly. And of course, the tax rate will slowly catch up, but or the amount of taxes they pay on the value would go up because there's a cap. But yes, the valuation, it would go from $300,000 to $400,000,
right, and whatever you saved, you're going to be spending all at once. And I doubt many people are going to take those savings over the 5 years and put them in a special account. I think it's really one of those things that it could really be a time bomb. And the mayor has suggested that he wants to gather a coalition of mayors to go down there and dispute this. And I hope that's helpful. But I don't know. Dan Patrick didn't seem to be very agreeable to a lot of changes in his thinking sometimes.
I think they kind of do what they want to do.
They're going to do what they're going to do, right? And I think that's not a good thing,
right?
Because they need to understand what's going to happen. It hurt us, but I just think Alvarado and Joshua, those are bedroom communities primarily. I mean, maybe Alvarado has a few small industries, but Joshua doesn't. And neither does, Godly, neither does Ra Vista, neither does, Grandview. They're taxed primarily on homeowner property, right?
Correct.
And so, in the sales tax, we can't raise it arbitrarily.
Right.
Because if we raise ours like 2 cents, well, then they'll buy in Joshua or something like that. Another thing, and this is just, I heard this floating, I haven't seen this in a bill, but they also think about taxing groceries. Now, that's going to
That'll hurt a lot of people.
Yeah, hurt a lot of people.
Because I know the mayor and Councilmember Scott have been working on possibly increasing the sales tax rate, but I know the discussion, you would still want to exempt food and things like that so it doesn't affect people. But there's ideas going around trying to figure things out. Sometimes I wish the state would give up some of their 6.25, maybe let us have a little more of that.
Yeah.
They always seem to have a surplus.
Well, yeah. In fact, they have been in a situation where they've had to, by constitutional edict, either cut the rates or give the money back, which is they primarily do both. But, the people think they're accumulating this huge fund, but the Constitution limits the percent of that rainy day fund. And so, if they exceed that limit, they have to find a way to spend it or give it back. And, I think, gosh, if you had that kind of money, then why are you insisting on these higher tax rates?
Right.
Because one of the guys I talked with this morning works in the real estate industry, and people are still wanting to move to Texas, in this area in particular.
Right.
We're growing very quickly. Alex will tell you that. And, it's, I just don't think the state realizes that we're not all like Austin, some blue hub, the liberalism and things like that. Most towns in Texas are fairly conservative politically and financially. And I don't know why they want to just take that approach that they're all like Austin or all like Houston or Dallas, and we need to control what they're doing. Have you talked to our state reps, Senator King or Representative Kerwin about this?
I know that the mayor has, and the plan is next session to go try to get something across.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, and honestly, we're trying to look for other sources of revenue now. We have engaged a federal group to help try to get us some money from Washington, D.C., because that would be our income tax dollars coming back to us.
Yeah. When you talk about federal grants and whatever else, do y'all have a professional grant writer on staff?
We do not.
Okay.
We have looked at the possibility of exploring that because some of the grants that you can get can help pay for that person.
Right.
And so the net cost to the city would not be much.
I don't know if this position still exists in BIST, but it did for a while. And I remember when it first came up, a lot of people saying, "Oh, that's what we need, just another administrator, blah, blah, blah." And then I was saying, well, the first grant that this person gets for us will pay for it and then some.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened.
And that's how we're thinking with the federal people we're looking at. It costs it's $4,000 a month, and if we can just get one, we're trying to get our new ambulances covered. That's about $800,000 all in with all the equipment. It just pays for those.
Yes. I think if most people would understand that. Of course, you got people in this community and any other community, that will look, like that's an unnecessary expense and one more, fee or person you're paying for or whatever else. But I really do think it's worth it. I know that it was worth it for us because it helped us get certain money we needed for technology to start credit recovery and remediation programs and things like that. And that would have been out of the taxpayer's pocket if we tried to do that. This was not funded by local taxpayers, but by federal and state grants.
Right.
And so I would hope that people would bear that in mind if it happens. But the problem you have with grants, though, is, first of all, they're not open-ended. They're very restricted. Second of all, they don't last forever.
Right.
Sooner or later, you either got to, if you use that grant money to, pay for staff or whatever else, new cops, new firemen, sooner or later you got to either put them on the payroll or let them go.
Correct.
And that's not really optimal.
Right.
So,
and some of these big projects we have that we need to do, we can't get them done without federal funding because it's just so expensive.
what projects in particular?
So
are you
the
thinking
bridge that we're looking at to go from Hewlin over the railroad.
Over the railroad.
Over the railroad.
Over instead of that narrow little
Right.
area.
Instead
Okay,
of
yeah.
floating through it with the sharks or whatever PD finds out there when it's raining. But yes, that would require, and then to take Alsbury all the way to Lakewood, that's a significant chunk of money
Yes.
to widen 1020. And so it could also require federal funds. And then I know we've kind of kicked around a secondary water source just as a backup, but that would require, that's about a $60-70 million project.
60 to 70. Okay. Well, I know Victoria being on the COG has been helpful.
Correct.
The mayor's always talking about road projects.
Right.
And the problem is kind of get back to what someone mentioned at the beginning of the show. The longer time passes, the more expensive it is to build.
Absolutely.
Because of the materials itself.
You've seen that in the last 5 years.
Yeah. Because, people, all this stuff we're doing in the Middle East is going to come back as expenses to us. And because of materials and concrete and, steel and all this is going to be on the worldwide markets more expensive and therefore be more expensive here. And, and we'll be relying on the all to try to figure out that problem without raising my taxes.
Right. Right.
That's always understood, right?
Right.
We also have, now that Joshua's passed that school bond, they're going to be building an elementary and a junior high, I believe, which will be in the city of Burleson, which means you're on the hook, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wicker Hill and Greenridge, that project was not on our 5-year plan. And once that bond passed, we had to put it on the 5-year plan to help widen those roads.
Well, I had the superintendent of Joshua on about 4 months ago, and I congratulated him on how shrewd he was to be able to build a school that wouldn't cost Joshua much money,
Right.
So, but he was, he took the humor of it, but he also said, hey, that's where the growth is, and that's where growth will be.
Right.
So.
All the new development out west in Burleson, it's Joshua ISD.
Yeah. I don't think many people realize that when they move here, because just how many Burleson residents go to Joshua ISD. And they already have 3 schools in our system. And so they're going to be up to 5. And, you got to maintain them and all that. So hopefully grant money will be available for this. And I'm sure you get a lot of emails or a lot of phone calls. Hey, this road needs fixing. That road needs fixing. And I bring this up all the time, almost to redundancy, is 714. That stretch near Russell Art Farm to, Dobson.
And it's a weird road because part of it, it goes city, and then about 100 feet is in the county, and then another 100 feet's in the city, and another 100 feet's in the county.
Yeah, it is weird.
And so...
a lot of people wonder what that is,
Right.
And, of course, that Pecan Grove development is in Burleson. And so that's more infrastructure. But there's no way that road's going to handle the traffic.
Right. And we ended up lowering the speed limit, and I appreciate Commissioner Howell for agreeing to lower on the county side. It was 40, but if you try to drive down that road at 40 with all the ruts and big trucks and stuff coming, so it's down to 30 now.
Well, and the thing is about Burleson drivers, it's like I told somebody the other day, it's like you got 2 types of drivers in Burleson, those trying out for the Indy 500 and those that are 500. And so, hey, where's the drum roll? Okay, thank you. Anyway, and I'm just saying, you're only going to go as fast as the old lady 4 cars in front of you. And you go down 714, that's what happens. The idea of speeding, I don't know if I've ever hit the speed limit in Burleson because you're just not going to get anywhere fast with all the traffic and safe drivers, shall we say.
Right.
But once that church, the Heights Church, comes online, that's only going to be more of an issue.
Right.
And I'm sure that there are other people who tell you, about other areas of Burleson that, that need their immediate attention right now. What else they tell you?
Well, that's it. I mean, every year they do the surveys, and it's always roads, public police and fire, and the order changes every year, but it's always the top three.
Do they tell you which particular roads? Like I just did with Dobson, because that's the one I use when I go to HEB from my house. I use Dobson because I don't want to gut my way through Wilshire and all that hassle down by the ad building. And
I mean, we hear Wilshire, Hidden Creek, it had some issues. The freeze didn't help, with the roads, and we've put off, we put more money in the budget to do the roads this year, but we've put it off a little bit, and because we were, we had those trucks go through and determine how the roads are, the condition of the roads. And we're trying to incorporate that into a big plan, and to then find out, okay, we need to focus on these roads. And we're trying to be creative with the if there's a water line that needs to be replaced under the road, you can actually use water funds to fix the road instead of using property tax dollars to fix the road.
Well, and I know that the last time I left here, y'all were working on Renfro, and I needed some work, but boy, you when you take out Renfro or put it down to one lane or whatever, it's a traffic issue.
Absolutely.
So we're getting big city traffic now.
Right.
But
Summercrest looks good now. That was a water project, and so I think now the joke is it's Summercrest Speedway. So
well, I guess
in front of the brick, but yes, it's a much better road now.
Well, y'all have to go quite a ways away to beat the worst road I drive on, and that's go to DBU. I don't know if you ever get on Mountain Creek Parkway, but my goodness, it's terrible, So I got some perspective, but there's I was surprised how quickly Hidden Creek started, showing where.
Right.
And I guess because we underestimate how much traffic that would get.
I don't know. And if you drive down Alsbury, you can hear how hollow it is under the concrete.
And you've been working on that too. And and that's the unsexy part of being a member of city council is you got to talk about these and think about these things and whatever else. It isn't like you get to decide really exciting things. It's which road to fix and how you're going to pay for it,
right.
and then balance that out with the other needs of the city, which you mentioned about the police and the fire. I mean, according to what I've been told, we're actually understaffed.
We are.
For a city our size. And it isn't like, well, we just put out a want ad for more cops. I mean, to get police and fire with the proper training and the proper equipment, it's a lot more than just their salary.
Right.
Do you have an idea how much it costs to hire a new police officer?
Oh, that's because you not only have the salary, which is entry salary, and chief would know more than that, but it's, let's say 75, 80 plus, but then you got to add the benefits and the training on top of that.
Well, I was in North Dallas about 2 weeks ago. I'm driving through, I don't know what I was doing there. I was visiting a friend, I believe. I see this big old sign saying, trying to get Plano police officers, starting like 110. That's pretty good money for a starting cop, right, for anybody.
Right.
So that's what you're competing against because they could go make more money in Fort Worth. Of course, it's a different kind of job, maybe.
Right.
Because it was the same with teachers. I mean, I could have gone to Fort Worth and made about 15-20% more, but then I'd be, ducking chairs and bullets all day long or whatever. It would not have been as good an experience. But still, that's what you're competing against.
Right.
Same with fire. I can only imagine what it's like for Joshua or at Grandview to get police officers.
Right.
So, do y'all get together with other city councils and compare notes, so to speak, compare problems, compare solutions, whatnot?
When we go to those conferences and like the little meetings, the COG meetings, so that's where you meet your other council members and kind of talk about stuff. Everybody's kind of in the same boat.
Oh, sure. So you all get together and have a beer and, and talk about, well, you think you got some cranky citizens. Let me tell you some stories, nothing like that. But I just wonder if y'all look to other communities for how they solve these problems, if they do. I'm sure if I had a city council person from Grandview on right now, we'd be having the same conversation, wouldn't we?
Right.
So, you talked about that survey. Which do you think is the number one priority that you have to focus on right now?
Well, honestly, it's not those three. I mean, we've made some adjustments to help catch up on the public safety side, but now we need to look at our maintenance people. and other areas of the city that have not had necessarily any look at their pay
You know,
in a while because we're having to take care of other parts of the city.
you talk about just the people that keep the water running, lights on,
Right.
et cetera, right?
Yes.
And when you talk about it, you need to look at that. You talk about like competitive pay and benefits and all this other.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. And you haven't been able to look at that till recently.
Well, that was the retreat that we went on, or we say retreat, but it was across the street in the annex upstairs.
Yeah,
so that's
Victoria's
as far away
it's
as
a
we
beating.
went.
Yeah, it's not a retreat. It's basically being put in solitary confignment
Right.
for the day. Did
2 days, yeah.
Did you at least get lunch out of the deal?
We did.
Okay.
We did.
Well, that's like the teacher retreats. We're on a retreat, and you're thinking it's like picnics, and no, it's basically we're going to just hang around the campus, and maybe they'll get some pizza for us or
Right.
something.
Right. But that was one of the things that came out of it. Is we need to look at other areas and maybe look at trying to be more competitive.
Yeah.
But it just comes down to the dollars.
And like we said at the beginning of the show, we have all these other issues
Right.
coming out of the state that's making that even more difficult.
Right. I think there was one bill that to have any kind of tax increase, it has to go to the voters, which I think in this day and age, it always would fail.
It would,
unless you just market it so good that it
well,
can help explain it.
well, like the last time y'all had to go to the voters for anything was that bond about 4 years ago, right?
Right.
And what did it pass by? Like 21 votes?
One of them was 25 votes.
Yeah, something really close. And even though it was very specific about in certain ways, I mean, there was some questions about, not so much that the money would be mishandled or nothing like that, but where would the money go? Which project specifically would it go to? And there was all those questions about that. But, I know that y'all pushed it, and it's still was a very narrowly run thing. I just like the Joshua bond. There's for their schools, there's very little way they could have continued with their existing facilities with the growth they're having.
Right.
And then it only passed narrowly. And God only knows what would happen if it failed. Now, I think if you had a tax increase of, say, 5% or whatever else, you'd have a pretty good sales job ahead of you. Because people look at the national situation and think, I don't know if I could afford this or whatever else.
Right.
And my taxes are already high, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So you go back to the sales tax. But you can't do that by yourself. Can you raise the sales? I mean, let's say legally, though, you can raise it yourself past.
If we weren't already maxed out, we're maxed out.
Okay, but we're maxed out. How do you increase that maximum? Because the mayor was talking about 2%.
So the state, what the mayor and Councilmember Scott are working on is passing a bill to allow us to go to 9.25% instead of 8.25%, and use that extra 1% to offset the maintenance and operation tax of your property taxes, which would lower your property taxes about $1,500 on average a year.
Ooh, that's a bunch.
That's a bunch, yeah. But just to get that sold, because now you're going to have 9. They did a survey, and I'm sure we get Councilmember Scott here to talk about all the research he did. But
I've asked him to come on, and he's going to try to as best he can.
Good.
He's doing pretty well with his health issues.
Absolutely,
doing much better, thankfully. But you still have to schedule around that,
right?
Yeah.
But just some of the studies he looked at was the states that have the lowest property tax actually have a 10% sales tax. So the money's coming from, or a state income tax, which we don't have.
Like Oklahoma.
I wouldn't want, right.
Because my cousin lives up there, and he's amazed at how much I pay in property taxes. But then I don't have a state income tax.
Right.
And they tax groceries. I have a sales tax. I don't know if it's higher than ours at all, but that's, they got that going on. But as far as property tax and all that, sales tax, this bill, you're talking about crafting a bill to have Helen or somebody submit.
Right.
Okay. And I know.
And it would go to an election, so we wouldn't be able to do it, but we'd put it out to the citizens and say, okay, we want to go to this.
Would that be assuming that the bill had passed?
Correct. Yeah. Let's say it passed and the governor signed it, and then we would put it out for election.
Okay.
Right.
It's really, it's a nice world you're living in right now. You're always thinking all that will happen, But let's say it does. You're going to have a real sales job for that.
Right. And I think I think people would love if you could eliminate the M&O portion of city city property tax, and just have the debt portion. I think that's a big.
Well, so,
you got to start somewhere.
Well, yeah, if you get like $125 extra a month, I guess you'd end up paying that a little bit higher on your, when you go to restaurants or whatever else, or non-grocery items at the store. That's always been the fallback position on certain other elimination of taxes, that they would have more disposable income and it'd be made up through consumption type taxes. My concern about sales taxes and consumption related taxes is there's no way you can graduate it according to income. I know there's a method. I know a couple of European countries do it that way. But then if you get in a situation where, you had a means of, all right, this person pays higher sales tax because he makes more money, there'll be a lot of shenanigans about what is this man's actual income.
Right.
And there'll be a lot of, falsification of figures, you might say. And there'd be no way to enforce it.
Right.
So anyway, so we'd have to assume everybody pays 9% or 9.5%. And that can be kind of hard on, like a single mom with 2 kids. How would you respond to a question like that?
I mean, I think you continue to exempt the things that that would get focused on, groceries and all that, and not have them pay. It would be on things that we would consider more disposable.
Like dining out. I don't know if I'd never have asked Otto or anybody else about that.
Right.
Because right now we're just speculating and whatnot. But you would have to also sell it to not just the consumers, but to the merchants.
Right. Because like you said, I mean, if everybody does it, well, then you wouldn't go to Joshua to save 1% on your bill.
No.
But if we were the only one, then people may think about ordering different things. I don't know how it works. I thought it was, it's at least an idea, a talking point, because you hear all the eliminate property tax, and I'll just tell you, personally, sure, great, let's do it. But you say, well, how do you get there? And nobody really has an answer.
I've noticed that too. In the last session, there was all these bills and all this discussion about getting rid of property taxes, and they said, well, how are you going to replace the revenue? Oh, look at the time, I got to go now, and that kind of thing. And they never had an answer or a plan, and not just a 10-second answer, but they didn't have a comprehensive plan. Okay, we're going to replace the revenue with this, and here's what the impact will be, and blah blah. Just get rid of property taxes because it's throwing people out of their homes or something like that. And it was like, that's like diving off the cliff without a parachute. They had no plan, and I just was amazed at how cavalier they were about this whole issue. We're just going to eliminate the property tax. I do know that I'm getting very close to the age where my homestead exemption is going to be significant. And they talked about freezing property tax, not just values, but like total outlay for certain people of my age or coming to be my age, 65. I'm 63 right now. And there's all that talk, and it sounds great, but I'd like to say, okay, if I'm not paying more taxes, I get it, I'm fine. But where's the money going to come for all the things we depend upon a state to do? And I do get concerned about the schools.
Right.
What a lot of people don't understand about the schools, and this applies to the city as well, is that they say, well, the schools are overstaffed with administration. Maybe, maybe not, but a lot of that is in response to the mandates given to them by the state. Some of these positions I know at the school, I don't know if they would exist if the mandate to have them, which they don't pay for, by the way, if those mandates didn't exist.
Right.
Does that happen with y'all a lot?
Yes. Unfunded mandates?
Yeah.
All the time.
What's the biggest one for y'all? Because I know with the schools, the unfunded mandates quite often are dealing with remediation, special ed, things of that nature, which are necessary, needed, and great. So state, pony up, if you think it's that important. But what's the biggest?
This is more
one?
like on the regulatory side, just different things that you have to go and do check boxes and stuff. The robots were a big thing, but that was a federal ADA that required us to have this big plan and all that, and so we spent a bunch of money just to have a an ADA plan because it was required by federal law.
Well, I remember way back. I mean, this was back in my first year teaching at the high school. They passed ADA at the national level, and they said everybody has to retrofit your buildings. Get after it. And it cost BISD a ton of money for the older campuses. And it adds to the expense of the newer ones. Now, let's be clear. Yeah, I think it's necessary.
Right.
It's great. I understand it. So pay for it then if it's that important. Don't just mandate it and go pat yourself on the back that you've helped the disabled or something when you just pass the burden on to somebody else. You know, that's what I always was so upset. And I just remember the school board at that time and superintendent at that time were very upset, you know, because we're talking about millions of dollars to retrofit these buildings.
Right.
And so, you know, when my wife saw that first one of those little bots going around, she thought, are they delivering pizzas? You know, no, Robin, they're not. They're measuring out for this. I forget exactly what it was for, but it was for, I know it was to try to determine our ADA compatibility, right?
Right. The accessibility on the sidewalks and driveways and things like that. And yes, you could hire a person to do it, give somebody a job, but that would have cost significantly more than what it cost to have them. I think it was $150,000. The total plan is about $500,000. The cost, but I think the robots were about $150,000 of that.
Well,
and they take measurements and grading and all this stuff. And
another job take about robots,
right? I know,
but it's you know, it's like, well, you know, does anybody really want to do that job because you have to walk all those streets,
walk all the streets and all the sidewalks?
Yeah, I mean, you'd be in good shape, I guess, but still, it's like, you know, that's the thing about some of these robotic jobs, you know, is that they're taking over jobs that nobody really wants to do, you know. So, but I just thought it was kind of funny. It was kind of they were like little celebrities, weren't they?
Yes, I think our communications group did a great job. Just you know, people are going to be upset, so let's just run with it and go.
Why would they be upset?
Oh, they were upset about the wasted money on the robots.
The expense. Well,
yeah,
but again, you had no choice, right?
Right.
You know,
we didn't want to have to do the survey, but we needed to do it, and then we'll use that data to come up with a big plan of how to address the issues, and that's what's required by law. You don't have to put a date on it.
Well, that's why I like to have you guys on the show, because this is an opportunity for y'all to say, look, we understand, you know, 150 grand is in chump change, but we had no choice.
Right.
We could have spent a lot more, and furthermore, the information is very useful to us. Will save us money later.
Correct.
You know, I'm sure if I scoured the budget, I'd say, well, what about this or what about that? But I'm not quite that obtuse, I guess. You know, I don't have that kind of time, and I'm not going to quibble about every expenditure, because I know that I think I've gained much more confidence in y'all over the last few years, that I really think this particular council and mayor have worked well together, not to be cavalier with people's money and to go off on these wild tangents and goose chases and things that really aren't productive for the city. And I think the condition of the city is pretty good in many cases. I mean, look at that farmer's market Saturday. I don't know if I seen the pictures, but it looked like it was wall to wall.
Right.
And then you got, of course, coming up, you got the honey tour with the chamber, and they're going to coordinate that with that carnival.
Right.
I guess that was a sales job for Old Town merchants a little bit. Do they benefit from it, you think?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
I mean, I think they're very much in support of having the extra people down there to
I mean,
go to all these
it is an inconvenience a little bit, but I think they make up the money. And you're going to have more parking, hopefully, by then, because I know you tore down the old police station. And there's a pad there, I believe, for potential future
growth, but then there's a little bit more parking.
Yeah. And I know that First Baptist, my church, avails itself to city events. I don't know. We're not charging you, I hope.
No.
Oh, good.
No,
All right, good. That'd be great. I would have to.
We have a good relationship with First Baptist and a lot of the other churches in town that give us access, to host events.
Well, sure. Pathway is almost like a de facto convention center.
Right.
You know, I would be very upset with my own church if we were like, shaking you down a little bit, but that would be wrong, because we want to be community citizens too. People will probably always ask you, about what's going on here, what's going on there. There is a couple of spaces that I just think I wondered why it haven't been developed yet. Now, Alex may know, and he ain't going to tell us. But one is a city-owned property, and that's that patch of grass that used to be the Methodist Church / Hill College. Is there any movement on that at all?
Not right now. We're waiting for the right opportunity to come along. I know they're always still talking to people be interested in it.
Well, since y'all own it, y'all could be a bit more selective, right?
Correct.
So if it was like private property, you have less control, but but since you own it, the city owns it, we have some say, so we're not going to have a vape shop or something like that.
Right.
But personally, I bet some professional space would be pretty handy, for attorneys and more medical personnel, whatever else, or I don't know. One thing that this kind of goes back to Alex, and he's on the show about once a quarter also, is that, I asked the question, do we really need more of this? And he says, well, somebody must think so because they're putting their money into it.
Right.
So there you go. But you got a busy summer coming. You got the carnival, what is it, like May 21st?
It's a Memorial Day weekend.
Memorial Day weekend, okay. And then you have
Big 4th of July.
Yeah.
It's going to be bigger this year because it's the 250. So we put a little extra money, more fireworks. It's always a great fireworks show. I think it's one of the best in the
the
area, in the state. I mean, it's just
sure.
it's a 20-minute show.
Yeah, I took my kids to it every year. Fought off the mosquitoes and whatever.
Right.
But all right, patience is key for the right project, according to Alex. I asked him one time, what's going on in that spot? I'll tell you right now. This is a secret. It's going to be a business enterprise. Thanks a lot. Okay. Anyway, they also, Hot Sounds of Summer. I guess I mentioned that.
Yes, that's coming up.
Yeah, you got all sorts of things.
That'll be the first weekend. During Honey Tour would be the first concert.
That plaza really has made that work. In fact, going back to that breakfast I had this morning, a couple of the guys have been here. They went to high school here, and they're my age. Okay, so they're been here all their lives practically, and they said that's the biggest change they've seen in Burleson was having a location for the community to get together and do all sorts of things of that nature.
Right.
Because when I moved here, I started teaching in '88 and I moved here in '91. There was no place for that. And Old Town had a barbecue joint, which was pretty decent actually, Odom's Barbecue, and and a couple other businesses there. And they had Bailey's, one main place, an antique mall, but there wasn't anything going on. And that now, Alex will tell you, we basically serve a buying population of nearly 350,000 people. We're probably better shape to ride out this difficulty financially than most other communities. So, kind of switch gears and talk about a little politics. We're not having any races, which I mentioned before. I'm the only disappointed person in town because I wanted to have all these guests come on. But it did save us money.
Yes.
What do you take that as a sign of?
I think there's probably two opinions, but one I think is I don't think it's apathy.
I don't
That's
either.
one of the opinions, but
Yeah, I don't think it's apathy.
I think it's everybody's content with the way things are going.
Oh, I was wrong. It's 375,000. Okay, Alex. No, I think it really is an understanding that they're doing as good a job as anybody else is going to do, and I don't want to do it. So, plus, I mean, honestly, I don't know what I would run on if I were somebody that wanted to run for city council. Because the decisions that y'all make, may not be always popular, but I think they're the right decisions. And I think it's been interesting because I've talked to Chris Fletcher on this show when he was a candidate up to this date, and I think the grasp of the job, I can watch him grow into the job over the years. And that you feel the same way, right?
Yes.
You've been on there one term, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you feel like you've been probably the first couple of years, you probably felt like you were drinking out of the fire hose, right? Now you feel like you're kind of getting your feet on the ground.
Right.
So,
we've got a good group.
Yeah. But it's just interesting to watch him go from, okay, now I'm the mayor and, having to evolve over time to the grasp and the understanding of the job that he has now. And he'll tell you, he had the same thing like you did. It's like, It's a lot to learn in a fast amount of time. But you're not regretting it apparently because you're signed up for another 3 years.
Doing another 3 years. You can't officially take the oath until after what would have been the election day.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. There's even state laws on that.
Yeah. Oh, Lord. Okay. Well, let's talk about some of the nonprofits coming up because we got a few definitely. Yes, this coming up on April 11th, there's going to be an old car show. That's one thing Burleson specializes in is old cars. There's a bunch of them, of fancy cars. Now, I don't mean old beaters. I'm talking about some really nice ones. There's a guy out lives near me that has several, and I see him driving around the neighborhood in like this 1925 edition car, and I'm like, that's so cool. But anyway, it's $30 if you don't enter your car, but it didn't cost you anything to go see these cars. It's at the Old South, and it's going to be benefiting Next Step Women's Center. It's going to be hosted by the Rotary Club, which is this year's president's Megan Swallowell, Swearingen. I keep messing up her name because I remember it's Hollowell, and her name is Swearingen. I keep going, messing up her name. Sorry, Megan, if you're listening, because I always think of my old students, the young ladies, by their maiden names still.
Right.
And so I was thinking Hollowell. No, it's Swearingen. Get it right. Anyway, the Rotary Club will be hosting this, and it benefits the Next Step Women's Center. Also, we have Light Up Tonight, and this will be my guest Thursday. It'll be Lisa Boldinghouse, and she'll be here with Miranda, her mini-me, as I called her on the Facebook. Hope she thought that was funny. Anyway, Light Up Tonight, it's over at the Brick at 6 to 9. It's a big deal. It's a big fundraiser. It's a lot of fun. They're going to have music. They're going to have vendors. They're going to have games and contests for the kids, a petting zoo, all those things. It's a lot of fun. And she does a really good job. That's another thing that I'm sure you noticed about our community is the quality of the nonprofits we have here is second to none. All right. Anyway, also, Walk for Life. Megan's with this too. This is going to be get the right date this time because I got it messed up last time. It's going to be on the 18th. Okay, last time I said it was on the 19th, which is a Sunday, but no, it's going to be on the 18th, and it's going to be over by their location off of Tarrant, and it's always a big deal. It's 80s theme, so get the neon day glow going, if you will, and it's one of their two big fundraisers. The QR code there on their webpage, on the Facebook page. Check it out, see what you can do to help raise money for Next Step. They do a great job. Well, they're a wonderful outfit. Also, Vineyard Vibes, all right? That's coming the 26th. That's over at Lost Oak. This is the Harvest House. I don't know if I'll have Amber, but by the way, speaking of Harvest House, this is Amber Case's birthday. So if you see her in the next day or two, say happy birthday. Don't ask her age. Because, you don't do that. I'm going to guess 38. Okay. Anyway, because I'm stupid like that. But anyway, Vineyard Vibes is a big deal. If you want to help out, there's a QR code. The tickets are around $25, I believe. And there's always music. There's going to be food. There's going to be wine, of course. And it's always, Lost Oak is a great place to have these kind of parties. So Vineyard Vibes. And there's one more. There's a golf tournament, I believe. Yeah. This is what I'm part of, the Opportunity Fund, May 1st. That's a Friday, and it's going to be at Hidden Creek. And, it's one of our two fundraisers for the year for scholarships for Hill College bound Burleson students. A lot of people think you have to be a graduate of BISD, but that's not really the case. If you live in the BISD zone or city limits, so you can be eligible for this. So if you live in Burleson, go to school in Joshua, you're still eligible for this. And it's really put a lot of kids through school. When I was teaching at Hill, I taught there for 23 years at night schools and such. And then sometimes when I retired, I was doing day classes. Boy, the number of kids that were there on scholarship who may not have been there otherwise was noteworthy. All right. And so I think that's it right now. Of course, the honey tour, I'm sure Melissa and Candace would ask you to check into that about volunteering and or participating. Check out the code on their page. Well, no, that's a big deal. So you got like coming up, don't you? So, do you have anything you like to leave the listeners of Burleson before you go?
Saying we're doing our best, working hard for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate the extra 3 years.
Yeah.
So,
well, like I said, I think that's a affirmation as much as anything else, and I hope it is received as such. Josh, wake up over there. You got a busy day coming up today, don't you?
Yes, sir.
Well, good. Keeps you out of trouble that way. Like I said, Thursday at 11, I have Lisa with the Center for ASD. We'll be talking about their event. I don't know what I got going on much. I'm going to just check and see what I got. I want to make sure I say it right because I say, oh, well, I got this, got that. And I don't want to mess up. On the 30th, I got one of the ladies from the library. I met her at Beth.
oh, Littner.
Yes,
Yes,
Littner.
that's great.
Yeah. I met her at the showcase that the chamber did last month. And Rich Hooper will be on next week as well. It's going to be their fundraiser time, and he's going to be on here. He's been on 2 or 3 times. That's always a good show. Yeah, I'm pretty booked up until mid-April. I'll usually try to stay as busy, try to stay booked up for about a month at a time. So anyway, thanks for coming.
Yes, sir.
And
Thanks for having me.
No problem. And we'll be doing this in a few months, and by then you'll have solved all our problems. All right, we'll talk to you later, guys.
Thank you.